So I do have some information to share real quick. So thank you for joining our workshop. I'm Ruben Escobar, joined by our amazing school counseling team from San Marcos High School. I myself will be the room host today with my colleagues. We ask that attendees keep themselves muted unless asked otherwise during the presentation, but feel free to use the chat to ask questions during this session. Now I'd like to introduce myself, my partners. So we're from San Marcos High School. We have Allison Leo, Fina Knowles, Areli Simpson, and myself, Ruben Escobar. So we're your 4 presenters today from San Marcos High School. Our workshop is titled No Pie Until You Apply, Effective Strategies to Promote and Improve FAFSA CADAA DREAM Act Completion Rates. So we're gonna go ahead and start our slides. Thank you all for joining us. It's great to see so many colleagues from around the county. Dawn, thank you for helping me troubleshoot first thing. And here we go. And I'm going to pass it over to Miss Fina.
All right, thank you. And thank you once again, everyone, for joining us today and taking the time out of your very busy schedules to listen to what we have to say and to hear about some of our strategies. So we want to get started with hearing from you guys. So if you can type there in the chat, we want to hear from you. Let us know, what is your role in the financial aid process and what challenges do you face encouraging your students to submit their financial aid applications? So we know that there's lots of challenges out there. We've heard it all from, you know, my parents make too much money. I'm not going to college, or I'm not sure where I'm going to go. I'm not going to be awarded anything. So just go ahead and type there in the chat. What's your role and what challenges do you face encouraging your students? Love to hear from you. Okay, so there's a couple of things coming in there. Counselors getting students to communicate with their parents about what they need. Definitely that communication there is key. And students and parents who are undocumented, absolutely, those are some sensitive conversations and subjects. High school counselor, I don't want to take the time to fill out the form. Yes, it is a very lengthy form, lots of questions on there, and it can be very confusing. So taking that time to work with students to complete the application is key. Parent information, again, yes, receiving that, asking them to fill it out. Difficult to get parent information, okay, and seeing some common trends here. Organizing workshops, download reports from CASC and create incentive programs, okay. Supporting students to fill out the applications. Yes, my students believe that since their oldest siblings got nothing, there's no point for them to apply. So it's kind of changing and shifting that mindset of students and families of the importance of filling out either application, the FAFSA or the CADAA application. So, okay, great. Lots of stuff in there. Okay, so we'll kind of talk about some of the things that we've done and that has helped us over the past couple of years to help promote that. So just a little bit of background about our high school. We are the largest public high school in San Diego County. We have about over 3,600 students. And over the past couple of years, our FAFSA and CADAA completion rates have been ranged from about 72 to 86%. We do have an economically disadvantaged population of about 39%. And this year, our senior class is 910 students. Now that's over 100 students more than last year's class. So we have a lot of work to do on our end. Very large graduating class this year, but our goal is to reach as many students, if not all of them, this year. And we'll go ahead and hand it off to Miss Areli.
Hello, everyone. And yeah, exactly as Fina was saying, you know, our goal with FAFSA and CADAA completion is always to reach all of our students. And at San Marcos High, the team did an amazing job at finding a way and a system to do that. This is actually my first year at San Marcos High, but in seeing what the team has done, they have done a marvelous job and have received awards because of it. And I'm going to share a little bit about what they did and the way that they organized themselves and the systems and approaches that they took to make sure that they were reaching all of the students. Most of us are familiar with the system, the tiered systems of support. We look at Target 1 or Tier 1, where we're looking at assisting most of the students. We're taking a look at the core instruction, supporting everyone. And then we take a look at Tier 2, where it's a little bit more targeted. The instruction and the interventions are more smaller groups. And then we look at the Tier 3, where it's definitely more intense, and that's going to probably be more of like the one-on-one supports. So if we take a closer look at Tier 1, Tier 1, again, is looking at everyone, reaching everyone. And so the way that we can do that is by creating that school-wide culture. And that's what San Marcos did. And the way that they did is they broke it down. First, they started off in the junior year and making sure that the juniors were well prepared and providing them information and hosting workshops for them so that they knew what to do. And a part of that was collaborating with some of the TV news, so that way it's not all just the counselors doing all of the work, but we'll definitely show how there was a lot of collaboration throughout this whole entire process. The other is through advertisement, and we know that through advertisement it can take up a lot of time, but again, figuring out all the roles for everyone who's doing the advertising. This is a list right here of the different examples or ways where you can advertise using the school's website, the counseling website, creating flyers. A lot of the beautiful flyers that you'll see on here were created on Canva, using social media and pushing it on a daily basis, using all calls and emails to teachers. I thought this was super cute, the no pie until you apply. The slogan and using something that's catchy, that's going to catch the students' attention. So my team mate, Allison, is actually going to share a little bit more about what the no pie until you apply looked like in last year and years before that. Allison?
Yes, thank you guys for being here. And I did just share the link to our slides. There was a question about it in the chat, so you're welcome if you want to follow along. And remember what some of these things so you don't have to take so many notes. But yeah, so no pie until you apply. You may have heard that phrase. I did not come up with it. I heard it at other schools I was working at. But I decided at this school we wanted to make it literally about pie. And so I was able to partner with ASB. Of course, I had to talk to our cafeteria staff, and we were able to actually pass out pie to students who completed their application. And it was really fun. It was an opportunity for us to get to know our students, get to see them. And all we did is they just had to show us proof of submitting one application. So we didn't limit it. We tried to keep it as inclusive as possible. But it was really fun. And again, I mean, the promotion, I'm sure you all have creative ways that you're trying to advertise, promote, encourage. And so this was kind of one of ours that in addition to social media, emails, all those things that actually offer some food, which we know can be a motivator to students. So fun for us and fun for the students.
Thank you, Allison. The other component to creating that school-wide culture about FAFSA and CADAA completion is actually providing the students with the actual assistance. And we'll see in Tier 3 that could be look in different ways. It could be individualized, but also in Tier 1, what that looked like at San Marcos High was going into senior government classes and actually having the students sit down in front of the computer and complete the application, the FAFSA or the CADAA during class time. And so during that time was when the majority of the students completed their application. After that Tier 1, what happened was more of the trickle effect of figuring out who was left over, who did not complete their application. And that's where we started to go into the Tier 2. But before I go into tier 2, this is the handy handout that was given to all of the students so that they could take a look and know what they needed to bring with them to the application workshops. So this was really good. And I believe that QR code actually does work. So if you want to scan that, you can have that. And then Allison did share the presentation with you. So you can have a copy of the handout from there as well.
And Aurelie, can I just jump in for a second?
Absolutely.
So we had, Kathy asked how they completed the application in class without their parents. And so these workshops have been so critical to everything that we're doing. As you guys know, they're actually not able to complete them, right? But what we figured is we're going to at least get them started on their applications. So we partnered with the government teachers who are the ones who gave up some of their class time for us. And they were promoting to their students before the day saying to be prepared. And what we always told them is come at least with your social security number if you have one. If not, you don't need it. But then we said, if you come with your social, then you can get about 40% done that day in class. So that's right up to the parent part, right? We also told them though, if you want to talk to your parents and see if they want you to bring in the tax information, we can get you about 90% done in class. So that's kind of the promotion that we used to help encourage them. But for most students, we just got them 40% done right up to that part. And then we would say, okay, tonight you're going to go home and talk to your parents, find out if they want to sit down and finish this with you at home. Or if they are like, I don't know what to do, I just want you to do it, they can give you that tax information. We've probably all seen that big packet, right, that a lot of our students come in with. And I always tell them, you can just come in with that packet and we will help you through the rest of your application as long as your family's comfortable with that.
Thank you, Allison. So taking a look at tier 2, which is more of the small group interventions, this is where we can use a CSAC list and start pulling the data, start looking at the students who are not matching and figuring out, who is still needing to complete their application. And this is it takes a village, right? It takes a village to complete this process. And so collaborating with other programs on campus, such as AVID teachers, the EL coordinators, workability, figuring out who the students are that are special education, and working with the case managers to provide them the list of the students who have not completed. The other approach that can be taken is working with outreach programs. Ruben, if we want to go to the next slide. There are a lot of programs out there that help with increasing FAFSA completion rates, such as CARPE or migrant education, AVID, Gear Up, Cal Soap, and Gwenthro's Reality Changers. So these are just some examples of, if you have these on your campus, reach out to them, work with them, and make sure that it's intentional. A lot of them will not have the access to CSAC, and so providing them the list and having it organized and ready to go for them so that the students can be identified can be very helpful in targeting those specific students. And then the third tier is more of the one-on-one approach. So after the students completed their application through the government classes, if a student was absent or still was having matching issues, the third level of more intensive support that was provided at San Marcos High was one-on-one through the College and Career Center. Students were able to pop in, there were specific hours, and then at this level was where the counselors were also taking a look at the CSAC list to see who else was still needed that assistance. And then that's where the one-on-one with counselors came in if needed, if they couldn't make it to the College and Career Center. Allison, Ruben, was there anything else that on tier 3 that was done that maybe I missed?
I'm muted, so I was struggling.
It's okay.
Tier 3 is really that hardest group to get a hold of. It's just, that's where most of the work will take place. Again, a lot of students will complete this on their own. It's those students that don't complete it on their own. And so I think a lot of our time as a committee, as focusing our energy was on these tier 3 students, because so many times they filled out the wrong year, they thought they completed it and didn't, and for so many reasons, they didn't match or things like that. And we'll talk about some more pieces of that. But again, I feel like this is really where the majority of our time is spent.
And I'll just add too, this is something we kind of would do in waves. So, obviously we're all busy, we'd like do one thing and then we'd be like, okay, it's been a week or two. Let's take a look at that list again and let's send out another wave of passes or emails or reminding case managers. So we would just kind of periodically say, okay, it's time, we're going to do it again, to kind of keep it a little more manageable. All right, and then I'm going to take a minute here and just kind of talk about the FAFSA CADAA mindset that we try to have here at San Marcos High School. And, this is something that probably all of you guys are going to feel very familiar with because you took the time to be here today, which means that you understand the importance of this and you care about what you're doing. And this is something that we've really had to work on to create buy-in, right? We want to create that school-wide culture. We want to get our admin on board, our full counseling team on board, our teachers on board. So we've really worked on creating this mindset that FAFSA CADAA is how we're going to help our students to achieve their goals. We can spend all day talking about, what do you want to do after high school? But this critical step is so important for our students to actually making that a reality. And so we've kind of embraced that this is difficult, it's hard, and it takes a lot of our time, but we just know that we need to invest that time because this is what's going to literally pay off, right, for our students. So, we really focus on making sure that we're helping every single student and being very hands-on in our approach to helping them. Some people say, I'm not a financial advisor, this is their personal information, I don't want to get too involved. But what we've found is truly, if we take that approach with our students, where do they go for help? So we've kind of just opened everything up wide and said, let us help you, right? You bring in your information, you tell us what you need, you tell us what questions you have, and we will do our best to either answer them or help you find the answers, right? So that includes a lot of difficult conversations, family and immigration status. And sometimes they'll come right out and say, hey, this is what's going on. Sometimes you'll notice it's really more about building that trust and you kind of have to come around from behind, right? And get that information. And, tax information. Again, this is very private information, but we're not here trying to just figure things out and, look at all our students' details. We're trying to help them complete an application. And so, not shying away from when they come in with that tax packet and, saying, hey, can I help you with this? Are you okay if I flip to the page that you need? And kind of helping them and flipping through that page and saying, okay, here's the number you need for this one. Because again, it's going to help them if we don't. So we've always just felt that is our role, to get as involved as we can, as involved as our students need. And just remembering that this is a life-changing activity for our students, and it is so important. And I'll tell you, none of us are just come into this field as experts in FAFSA and CADAA. We've all had to learn along the way. And I'm sure in this very room, some of you have helped hundreds of students, and some of you might just be getting started. And what I would encourage some of you who are maybe just getting started is, don't be shy. Get in there, start working on it with students, and go to those little I information question mark buttons, right? Some of our veterans in here know that those are so detailed. So a lot of times a student will ask you a question. All you have to do is click on that little I or question mark, and then it's going to pop up. Here's your answer right here. Okay. Some of them, you're not going to know the answer. And that's where the help number comes in. And I'll tell you, that was definitely the case for me. The first few times I was helping students, I would say, I don't know, let's call the help number. And we call that number. And now you know the answer once the second student comes in with that same question. And so you kind of just build up that knowledge of the application as you go along with your students. And there's nothing wrong with that. And again, that's really how we help them. So this is something that everyone can do, everyone can get involved in. And I use the example of the FAFSA helpline. The California Dream Act, CADAA, does have a helpline as well. I keep those in my cell phone so that when I'm working with students, if I need to, I can just call them up real quick and ask those questions. So just encourage you, encourage your team members, encourage your faculty, staff, admin, teachers, everyone to just, get on board and let's do our best to really hold our students' hands and help them through this process.
And I wanted to pop in for 1 second, just because the slide mentions mindset at the top, and it mentions 2 different applications. When we're thinking of kind of the mindset of how we approach all of this, we've already interwoven FAFSA and CADAA in our terminology, but at any school that you're at, you have to be very inclusive and remember and consciously remember to say the FAFSA and the CADAA or California Dream Act, again, whatever you're comfortable with, but we're hurting students when we don't mention both. So super, super important, because we can't assume one thing or another with our student population. I myself, I work with English learners and I have students coming from other countries. I myself can't impose a bias and assume certain things, because a lot of times some of my students are actually born in the US, but then later go to a different country. So it takes me a moment as well, even someone who works with this pretty heavily, to say, I have to remember that students can qualify for either one depending on their own unique status. And that we, again, have to present that information in a way that includes both and gives students the opportunity to really open that door of communication, to share with us those deeper intricacies that may lead us to say, okay, well, you're actually a California Dream Act student or you're a FAFSA student. But just again, I just urge all of you to be as inclusive as you possibly can, and to mention both the FAFSA and the CADAA, California Dream Act, when you're presenting any financial information, either in a group or individual setting. I guess it's me. So this slide I like, it just kind of, I've done all I can, now what? And it's tricky because, again, we can be a team of 1, we can be a team of 8, like our giant high school at San Marcos High. And there's so many directions that we're pulled in as school counselors. Are you subbing for a class because there's a substitute teacher shortage? Are you, working on graduation? Are you working on 9th grade, personal social issues? We're pulled in every which direction, but really, really important for us to hone in some time to talk about financial aid. We've worked with students for up to 4 years. If we've had them on our caseload all along, we've worked with these students for 4 years. In my personal opinion, we owe them the opportunity to kind of finish off in the best way that they possibly can. So again, I started with you as this little 9th grade student who maybe didn't know about colleges and universities. And by the time we're done interacting, I'm taking you to this level that hopefully you have the opportunity to choose what you want to do, whether that's working, going to the military, community college, universities, every option out there. I'm not the one choosing what my students will do, but I make sure that by the end, they're going to have every opportunity possible. And so to me, it's really important that I help with financial aid applications. I'm part of our committee at our school to ensure that the maximum amount of students can actually be considered for financial aid. Yeah, we know all the different myths and things that happen with that. But again, if I can help as a school counselor to ensure that they submitted everything properly and they become eligible to receive that financial aid, then to me, I job well done. I would like to say this could be somewhat of a transition year. As we know, it was mentioned that I believe it's AB 132 is kind of coming down the pipeline, and eventually financial aid applications will become mandatory in the state with a potential to opt out. So I would challenge all of my school counselor colleagues here or others watching at home as this gets shared later, to really think about how would I increase my financial aid submission rates at my school this year, because the year after it's going to become even more important, and we're going to have to really put our time and energy into this effort. So I would encourage you all to really take this year, if you haven't already at your school sites, to kind of increase the opportunity amongst your teams. I'll say that myself and Allison, we've kind of taken on a big task at our school over the past few years. We kind of had a committee of 2 over a few years, where it was like we were the co-chairs, and we talked to all the different individuals along the way, our fellow school counselors, our fellow colleagues, and others who other subjects that work with seniors. We've expanded that this year. So we have Fina here, Areli here, as again, we're expanding our own committee because it's too much work for one person to take on. it's way too much work for 2 people to take on. It really takes the entire team. And so we have a foundation here of, okay, we've expanded those who are doing certain roles. And then all 8 of our counselors at our school are going to be involved this year. We just are divvying it out in specific ways. And we're the set of eyes that's going to look at everything. And then I guess going back a step too is like, I've done all I can. Now what? In our field, there's always more. You know, do you do more work or do you do smarter work? So it's really just trying to find ways to be efficient. One of the ways to become efficient is using the web grants portal. And I know our counseling colleague, Jason Marr, is going to be presenting a workshop after this, specifically on web grants. So I would highly recommend, if you're engaged in financial aid work, to attend his web grant session after this, because he's going to dive deep into how to actually use the system. We have some slides we can share on how to use the system as well, but we're going to opt out of that piece for today because Jason has his presentation. So with web grants, you use it as a tool to basically run reports. I guess let me stop there, because first you need access. At my school, San Marcos High, when I started here 6-7 years ago, there was barriers. It was very limited access. It was like the principal has access and a registrar, or the person who was going to input GPAs to the CSAC website. They were the only 2 people who had any opportunity to even view this information. So as a school counselor, I had to use my advocacy skills and advocate for myself to get the opportunity to access this system. So again, web grants, I use that very heavily to help us achieve higher financial aid submission rates. And so back to where I was starting is, you use this tool to help you run reports. The reports can indicate which students have actually been matched in the system. So it doesn't tell you who actually filled it out. It's not that broken down. It's more of who was matched. So we have, the FAFSA and DREAM Act site, we have the CSAC site. So it's really, are those 2 systems merged so that our student can then be recognized and qualified for financial aid, for loans, for Cal grants, all of the above that you all know is eligible to our students. It's a little archaic, in my opinion, the way it comes out as some text files. I wish that the system would come out as Excel. It's not that easy. So hopefully in the later session, Jason's going to explain how you take those text files and actually merge them into Excel. It's not the worst situation, but again, it's an extra step that you have to do to kind of play around with the data. So again, once I get that information on my end, I create a spreadsheet, I share it with all my counselors, I share it with other individuals that need to know. It is confidential information in a sense, but again, I share it with confidential, trusted people like myself. Then I start color coding things. I organize who's completed, who's not completed their FAFSA or DREAM Act, and again, been matched in the system. And then internally, we take that to the tier 2, tier 3 levels, and we start color coding, like which students are avid students, which students have an IEP, which students have the potential to be undocumented because maybe they were born in another country. We do our own little internal color coding, like I said, and then maybe Allison is working with the avid students and says, hey, teacher from avid, here's the students from our list that haven't submitted their FAFSA or DREAM Act yet. And then FINA may go in here, IEP case managers, here's your specific students that haven't submitted it. I kind of take it on myself because I work with English learners to break down, who are potential dreamers that might be DREAM Act eligible. And again, start taking those difficult conversations of building the trust with the student to eventually say, if you care to share with me and don't mind me asking, because again, it's a very guarded and cautious thing. You have to have that trust with the student to ask this level stuff is, again, if you don't mind me asking, what is your, do you have a US citizenship, residency, none of it, feel free to say yes, no. But again, usually the students I get to, we have that relationship where they can say, yeah, I'm documented, I'm not documented. So again, it's breaking it down into smaller chunks and smaller groups that are more manageable, because again, we get a list of 500 students haven't submitted financial aid, and it's like, yikes, what are we going to do at that point? But again, chunking it into smaller groups has been amazing. Again, don't take on all the work yourself, pass it off. Avid, Gear Up, Trio, if you have those other groups on campus, share information as you're allowed at your school site. And then the other piece is using web grants is I can actually manually match students within the web grant system. That's a little more complicated. Usually you can find certain bits of information on the reports that indicate this student might actually be completed. Something seems a little off. And so then in web grants, I go in, I manually try to find students. You know, maybe they have 2 last names at our school, but in their system, they only put 1 last name. Maybe they're a twin and, you know, twins information somehow got in there. Maybe they have a different address, especially as we've been virtual. We found, you know, address at our school may be different from where they actually live. And in keeping everything confidential, it's like, for me, I don't care where you live. You're my student at my school. I want to get you the financial aid. You're a senior. I want you to just graduate and have the opportunities. But sometimes when we do identify those students with a different address, they get a little guarded and cautious, like, wait, who wants to know? And we're like, hey, we just want to match you in our system. That is all we want to do. So there's a lot of great things you can do with web grants. Like I said, attend the next session on web grants. That'll dive a lot deeper. The Race to Submit campaign dashboard, we have one with the county. So thank you, Tanya, Zarette, everybody else who's organized our county Race to Submit competition. As you know, San Marcos High, we've had a great reputation here in the county, winning banners and championships because of the great work that we're doing. Complicated work, you know, it's exhausting. I have to take work home, but again, it's worthwhile, it's meaningful. And another tool that I use to really help us get moving along is our Race to Submit dashboard. In this dashboard, once we get going, like October, November, it starts actually becoming live, and you can run reports on what does your individual school have completed thus far. Like how many students, you know, 20% of our students have submitted FAFSA or California DREAM Act applications. 10% have been matched for the DREAM Act, for the Cal Grant. And then again, periodically checking that. And then you can use that as a tool, you know, little screenshot, send that to your admin, send that to people across the school. You can use that information to make like a thermometer kind of countdown, like, hey, we have 800 seniors, we've had 300 that went. And again, so that someone, students, anybody that needs to see that information can see the positive progress you're making. One, it makes school counselors look good. It makes your department look good. It makes the school look good. Parents may see that and say, oh, okay, I want to be part of that. I got to get my student. Whoa, they're doing financial aid. I want to make them be responsible and then also help the school look good. Like I said, this is all going to be mandatory at some point in the future. So heavily use the resources of web grants, the Race to Submit dashboard to increase your financial aid submission rates at your specific school. FAFSA, California DREAM Act, use the vocabulary and terminology, use the tools. Feel free to ask us any questions at any point. Like I said, none of us started out as experts in this. Grad school doesn't really teach financial aid 101. You learn along the way. You go to workshops, you get hands-on, you get your hands dirty. So I would just, last point of mine is, don't be afraid to dive deep into this information. We don't have to be tax experts. Like Allison mentioned, there's little buttons in there. You just click the I for information, and usually it actually spells out what they need. Students just need that hand holding a little bit more to teach them how to click the button. So I'm gonna move along to, I think Fina is gonna take us on this last one. So thank you guys.
Yes, thank you, Ruben. So as we've mentioned, our kind of slogan or what we use around our campus is no pie until you apply. So we want to hear from you guys. What's your hook or slogan? What have you guys kind of used to help promote these completion rates? So what have you done at your school that's worked? If you want to put it in the chat there. A couple of other things that we've heard of or have been used before are like FAFSA Fridays, FAFSA February, FAFSA Fiestas. So just different kind of things that you can, that's catchy, right? And things that you can have, you can do a lot with, like no pie until you apply. We can attach it and have some pies with it. So just kind of catchy things for students that will help them and catch their interest in completing these applications. So if you want to type in the chat there, any kind of catchy slogans, Financial Aid Fridays. And again, Fiesta Fridays, FAFSA February, FAFSA CADAA Bliss, Making Money Moves Mondays. I like that. Very fun. Okay, so yeah, feel free to use any of these ideas that, as Allison mentioned, we heard this from someone else and it really stuck with our students. And so we've been using it for the past couple of years. And that's what we really use to help promote this for our students. The money team, our team has cash costumes they wear. Nice. And prizes, anything that kind of works to incentivize students to submit those applications.
I want the slide that's presenting right now to be our money team. That would be awesome one day.
Definitely. So we hope that you've picked up on a new strategy or tool that you can use to take back with you to your school and to use with your students. And this morning, Dr. Gothald had mentioned something that research shows students who complete these applications are more likely to attend college. So it's really, really important for us and our colleagues to join forces and to help our students submit these applications so they have more opportunities. Myself, I was a first generation college student, and I know that I couldn't have done it without the support of my teachers, mentors, and counselors and college advisors to get through these application processes. As you know, it takes a village. Ruben mentioned something in this presentation that really stuck with me, and I want to state it again. Our students look for us for help, and we owe it to them. So let's come together. Let's share ideas, strategies, and tools. No need to reinvent the wheel. And let's get our students some free money. So we'll take any kind of questions. This will wrap up our presentation. So if you have questions, feel free to go ahead and type them there in the chat. And our emails are on the next slide as well. So if you have any questions or would like a copy of anything, we are more than willing to share our ideas and some of our resources, our handouts, our flyers, anything that you can take with you.
Just take it to heart. I mean, that student panel earlier today was amazing. Like, so many individuals were a part of these students' lives. I encouraged one of my students, Perla, to be part of the committee. And again, if we can change one more life by helping them get every single opportunity to get the finances to pay for their education and have an even better opportunity, like, why not? Let's invest that time, energy, and effort into our students, build that positive relationship with them. Again, I have 450 students on my own caseload with probably 100 seniors. Can I get to know every single one? No, it's very complicated. But again, if I invest in a few very heavily and open the doors for them to really come to me for anything, whether it be financial aid, personal life, all that stuff. Again, if we are that trusting counselor, that one willing to go the next step to help them out no matter what, they're going to keep coming back. And the ones that keep coming back are going to get those amazing opportunities and make this all truly worthwhile in the end. So really just, to all of my school counselor friends and colleagues out there joining us today, just I know you all do amazing work. Let's join forces and make our county numbers as a whole a lot better, because when I see those county numbers at 50%, I'm like, yikes, that is 50% of our kids in San Diego County not getting access to financial aid. So again, to everyone in this room, like, let's get our county numbers up as a whole. Like, that would be amazing.
I don't know if this must mean we were just very thorough. You guys have no questions for us. We just covered everything, which is great. That's the information we have for you guys today. If you want to stick around and ask any questions, we will definitely hang out. Otherwise, do we get some bonus points? We gave you a few extra minutes, answer a couple more emails before the next session that starts at 2 o'clock. So really thank you guys for being here. Yeah, thank you, Michelle, for all the details. Thank you guys for being here. There's a presentation again, if you didn't get the slides. And the recording will be shared through SDCOE, County of Education. They said they'll have them up within the next 3 days, so you can look for that. Ruben, do you want to end the recording? Do you have the recording button?